Okay, so in our last video, just to recap, we worked with the plot functionality, which again, important to note, this is part of the standard R library. It doesn't require you to load a separate library package or anything like that. Um, so it does a little bit, but is somewhat limited. So kind of my go-to anytime I do visualization in R is the qPlot 2 package. And a lot of people reference this. If you do any Googling for visualization in R, this is one of the most common ones that you'll see. And I forgot my quotes here. So I'll go ahead and get this package in. Okay. And of course, this was also built on 3.1.3. qPlot to get some updates from time to time. Nothing too significant. It's kind of been around for quite a while. So, okay, once I have that package brought in, one function that qPlot has integrated into it is called the qPlot or the qPlot feature. Okay, so my syntax is a little bit different, whereas up above I was using, just the integrated plot feature. I have to call the data set, concatenate it with a $sign, and then give you the actual variable name. Whereas working with the qPlot feature, it's a little bit different. So I'll put in my variables, okay? So in this case, displacement in miles per gallon. And then I'm actually going to call my data set. Okay, so again, different way of doing things, okay? So if I go ahead and run that, okay, you'll see I get a basic, scatter plot that's showing miles per gallon based on displacement. Okay, so if you're a car person, you can't say this is a huge surprise, right? So here I have, cars that get higher miles per gallon typically have lower engine displacement, right? Meaning those cylinders are smaller, they're displacing less fuel, right? So a 4-cylinder is going to get better fuel economy than a 6-cylinder, okay? So that would be another interesting cut of this data, is to pull in cylinder displacement instead, okay? Which I could also do, all right? So if you'll notice, by default, one thing I don't like about this, and we've talked about this in class several times, is if you'll notice on my y-axis, right, you'll see that R has automatically scaled my y-axis starting at 10. I'm not really okay with that. So I want to change that. So to do that, I'm going to type a new command in here. So I'm going to, up to a certain point, it's going to be the same, right? So I'm going to do displacement miles per gallon, but then to actually specify my axis, it is the parameter of ylim, and then I do an equal sign, the letter C, an open paren, and then my first number that I provided is where I want the bounds of my y-axis. Okay, so I want 0 to 35. Okay, so again, if you look over here on my chart, you can see my top point, it looks like it's to be about 30, 34 maybe. So that would be all encompassing, and that would work. Okay, so then I separate with a comma, okay, and then here I specify my data set. Okay, so I'm going to run this command. Okay, and now you'll see I have a very different view of my data. So now that I've rescaled my y-axis, the other thing I don't particularly care for is my x-axis, right? So it looks like I'm starting this at about 50, okay? So I want to change that as well away from the default that they've indicated here for me. So I'll start with what I've already got in setting my ylim parameter. That worked for me, so I'm going to leave that at the 35. But then the other thing I can do is, just like I set the the y, I can set the x the same way. Okay, so I'm going to start this at 0, and it looks like going to 500 is going to be encompassing for me. So I'll set that to 500, and then I'll specify my data set as empty cars. And run. Okay, so once again, things look, it's changed my view, not dramatically, but again, like to be consistent. In this case, in this particular example, I would definitely argue that there's really no reason to rescale my axis like it did by the default here. So, so that's why I went ahead and went with this. Okay, so a couple other examples we could look at using a different data set. There is just some miles per gallon data sets out there. That's again another one of my embedded data sets. So and again, just show you just a couple different ways we could do this. So the qPlot again, and this time looking at MPG. So again, just another view. Okay. And one other command that sometimes will add a little bit more clarity to your view. Let me show you here. Is the GEOM command. So one that I like to use is jitter. Okay, and again, you can look at the help file and you can get all of the different ones that are available here, but so you can see the difference in the two of those.